So we're here in your office this morning.
We're in my office.
Right. We're not going to reveal the location because God forbid that.
Secret location, the Divide office, which could probably be found online. But yes, we're in my office. My refrigerator, my original artwork from Rest, from the Zero issue.
Let me actually focus on it real quick.
Written by, or drawn, by Roger Robinson.
Okay, so let's talk about this comic.
Okay.
All right, so you're obviously a comic book guy. How did you get involved in this? And can you tell people what it's about and just everything about it?
I guess I'll start at the beginning. When I was a kid, 8 years old, 9, 10 years old, my dad used to take me to Fredonia Funnies in Orange County. And once a week we'd go. And I loved comic books, was always into it. I would, read them as well as anything else I could get my hands on. And I was just super into the world of comics. And as I got older, put all the comics to the side, worried about like school, all that. Anyhow, got back into comics with Rest, but on the other side, contributing this time. It was based on a script by Michael Sullivan that it needed some development, and the writer strike was going on, so he couldn't contract anybody to work on it, to develop it further. So he took it to Devil's Due and pitched it as a comic idea because they were exempt from the strike. And it literally just turned into, oh great, we're going to take this and make it a comic now. We had no idea, no thought that it was going to be a comic, but Devil's Due was excited about it, and it was a good concept and story, so...
Well, we haven't actually talked about the story, so...
The story, it's about an experimental drug that suppresses a person's need to sleep. So, imagine you're I'm going to start over again. Story about a guy who takes an experimental drug that suppresses his need to sleep. Our main hero, John, is a guy who's down on his life. Things aren't going so well. He's overworked, has no personal life, no time for anything. That's the big problem in his life at the moment. And he bumps into an old friend of his that gives him this great opportunity to go on this experimental drug that suppresses his need to sleep. And his life just turns around. You know, where he had no time, now he has all the time the world has to offer. And it just, his life becomes everything he's ever been missing, everything he's been looking for. And Teddy and John reconnect. John's down the drug. His life is amazing. Things are going great for him. The drug itself is actually perfect. There was other versions, previous versions that didn't quite work, but this drug is perfect in his body. And John understands that, realizes that. But he kind of has a moral dilemma when he starts to see his friend Teddy slip. His mind slips on an older version of the drug. And John finds out that there's been a sordid past with the drug company that put out the drug. So now it's like he's understanding that this thing isn't so good. As it works in him, it could work in society. It hasn't worked in the past. So he's conflicted between, well, do you move forward and make it available for people, or do you take the whole system down? That's kind of fucked a lot of people. So it becomes a big battle where, you know, there's one guy who's living the perfect life, but he realizes that it may not be the best thing for society.
So the main character in the artwork kind of looks a little bit like someone I'm talking to.
Yeah, he looks like that guy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that was something that was discussed like way in the beginning. You know, should he look like me? Should he just look like, you know, any average guy? You know, this was when Russ, my producing partner, and I first found the material. We were like, you know, I as an actor thought, what a great part to play as an actor. How cool would that be if it was just something that we could do, produce, and I could act in. And then when we started doing the comic book, it was like, well, should we make the guy look like me? And it just kind of worked out that way.
So how involved, you mentioned you're very involved, but how involved are you in like the day-to-day on this kind of thing? Obviously you're a pretty busy guy. So how involved are you in the day-to-day? Where are you as far as, I know the first book is about to ship or has shipped?
The first book is out. And how involved are we? We're pretty involved. We're definitely involved. I mean, we linked up with Devil's Due, and once we partnered up, we started collecting the team, much like a producer in film, television, anything. They're assembling the group that's going to make the product. That's what we did. We got together with Devil's Due. They had a list of artists and writers and colorists and all these different people, and we just put the team together. And as far as story goes, Russ and I have been every step of the way involved with Mark Powers, who is writing the book. And, yeah, I mean, we've kind of known everything about it.
So when you came up with this, like a lot of people who come up with a series or anything generally have an idea for the beginning, an idea of where to take it, and an idea for like an ending. But this seems like it could be a very open-ended kind of thing. So how far have you guys thought away? Like how far
we've gone all the way up to book 5. We know what the 5 books that we're releasing in this volume are going to be. That was just something that we had to know. We kind of had to know going into the story. It's like, we didn't want to have things shift up in the middle of book 3. We're like, all right, what are the books? What are the 5 books? We're doing 5. What are the 5? What's the story? What's the arc? Where does it go? Point A to point B. So we've got that so far. But yeah, it is a story that lends itself to being open-ended, and we're trying to do that at the end of 5. There's been talks to do another volume, turn it into like a bigger story. But who knows? That's all dependent on the I think the sale of the book itself.
What's interesting about comics seem the superhero genre, comic books, comic stories seem to be bigger than ever. And what's interesting about this series for me is that it's not really based on a superhero. It's not someone in a costume. It's about a real life kind of sci-fi issue.
Yeah.
What do you think that this is something, your idea, you've only come up with 5 volumes, but do you think this is something that's sellable into either a TV idea, into a movie idea? Is there something you guys are thinking about?
I mean, when we got into the process and realized that, okay, let's make a book first. Let's make a comic. Great. Make that first. And then worry about its translation into film, into TV after the fact. If it's not a good book, it's not going to translate. But at the same time, it's a story that a lot of people can identify with. And myself, I work a million hours a day, don't sleep that much at night. We were just talking about when you walked in the office, how little sleep either of us got last night. And, for me, it was just, it was something that made sense. And I appreciated the fact that it wasn't a guy in tights and superhero and all these abilities and stuff like that. It's a real story that's attainable to anybody. Anybody can relate to it. From the guy that goes out and parties all night and has a rough time making that 6 a.m. conference call in the office to a single mom. A single mom who wants to work 2 jobs. Imagine if she actually were on the drug. She'd have the time and the energy to work 2 jobs and support her family.
Yeah, I was going to say that what's interesting about this drug is that somewhere in society there is a pharmaceutical company who's clearly working on this agenda.
Oh yeah, there has to be a pharmaceutical company working on this right now.
But definitely.
Yeah.
Because it's something like this that affects every person in existence. That's one of the concepts of the story that I actually really appreciate and like, because it is something based on real life.
Well, Russ is always saying, we're always talking about what are good stories, what are stories that people want to hear, that people want to see, and we always bring up sci-fi. It just kind of comes up. Good sci-fi is something that's kind of attainable. It seems like it's just a year away, 2 years away. I mean, there are stories that take place, hundreds of years, 70 years, something like that. But when things feel so close, it makes it that much more important and impactful.